effect did your practice as a Buddhist monk have on your obvious deep anger and your wanting revenge you described earlier a few years before? Could you tell us a little bit about your transformation?
Yes, it's amazing. It's really the Buddhist teachings, profound Buddhist teachings. How it's. Everyone can tell how it transforms you, and I can share my experience. And one of them was, even though you now turn around from going to military, you take a compassionate path, become a monk. But still, anger remains here. The sense of revenge still remains here. After joining in the monastery, I was very active in political movements. I have organized many demonstrations and hunger strikes and so forth that a monastery can do. We cannot do like any of violence, but those are the things that you can do, not necessarily breaking your principles. So my point was, even though you are a monastic now, you are in the path of Dharma, you are learning and practicing compassion, but anger still is there. But therefore it was quite a challenge to actually trying to transform yourself. But with your determination, with your constant effort, and then blessings from the great teachers and great fellow Dhamma friends. After 5-6 years, I realized how peaceful I was when it comes to the issue of China and Tibet and what happened to us. I started to appreciate the transformation within myself. Then every time I sit in the prayers or meditation, I would check myself. Am I really out of it? I just go on, and I find myself very peaceful. I have really no longer any anger against Chinese or the communist Chinese anymore. So perhaps this is great experience, I would say, out of my path, that I managed to come out of anger, and actually really from my depth of heart that I can see those Chinese acts as an act of ignorance. I no longer really feel anger or blame on people. It's just, as I say, ignorance are our common enemy to all of us. We need to work on that, not the person. Those people who indulge into misdeeds, do evil, are out of ignorance. It's not the person. If I was into such a environment and raised such a situation, I might have easily gone into that kind of path. So it depends on the situation, where you are raised, in the environment, not the person. As a person, as a Buddhist, we say, you have Buddha nature. Your very nature is compassionate. So that is the way, the practice that transform us to be able to forgive and understand. The people you might have seen as the worst, but at some point you are able to really see in peace and in harmony.
Could you share with us other ways in which His Holiness the Dalai Lama has had a inspirational effect on your life? And I'm thinking really of his encouragement as a teacher, as a mentor, if you're meditating in the caves, and also in regard to your political career, working as a member of the Tibetan Parliament. But in general, just the ways, your interactions with His Holiness, and how that affected you and your heart.
Well, actually, we all see and experience the blessings and energy from His Holiness. It's actually needless for me to share how powerful and how wonderful, influential His energies, His blessings are. With myself, beginning from 1972, his first talk in our school touched me, transformed me. He made me turn around from going to military towards the monastic life, to follow the Buddhist path. From there on, of course, everything that his teachings, his way of life are just inspirational. And then one time, in 1992. Okay, now, in 1978, let's go back to 1978. 1978, when I was quite deep in the practice of Mahayana path, the great compassion bodhicitta. And also, to tell you the truth, in our monastic system, we do a lot of philosophical studies and debating. And at some point in debating, you get emotional also. When it becomes a competitive, you become emotional also. So at some point, as a practitioner, I used to think, oh, it's not worth getting emotional into, in here. It's not worth. I thought it's better to go and meditate myself. And I thought I have enough to meditate now. So in 1978, His Holiness, one of his visits to his Sera monastery, I approached His Holiness through his secretary. I said, I really want to go to meditate. I need his blessings and guidance. And those days, as you know, His Holiness wasn't as busy as now. So His Holiness actually, with his own handwriting, he gave advice in my letter saying that no hurries for the meditation, study. He said, finish your study and then we can talk. So I then kept on studying so in 1991 when I finished my study, I thought, how can I approach His Holiness now? He's so busy. But in 1992, one day when he was visiting South India, Kollega, in the Dzogchen monastery he was teaching, and at some point I saw one of our fellow monk who was not necessarily known as a very good monk. And he comes out with that great kata, the scarf. You know, when you go see your teachers, you have scarves. So he comes down with the scarf and blessing coat, and he with a big smile. I said, what's going on? And he said, he just got a private audience with His Holiness. I said, you got a private audience with His Holiness? Then I thought, yeah. He's Bodhisattva. His views are equal to all beings. Normally you think you're just too small, there's no way you can ever see His Holiness, you know, in person. You never even dream that. But now I see, yes, His Holiness. He's a Bodhisattva. His view is equal to all beings. Now he got a private audience, I can too. So I ran to his secretary. I said, I want to see His Holiness. I said, I have a word from His Holiness in 1978. Now I finished my studies. I did my Geshe. I want to see His Holiness. And the secretary said, I'm so sorry. We are leaving tomorrow morning and his time is completely packed. He said, if you could make to Dharamsala, I will have you in as much you want. So I said, thank you. Whatever it takes, if you have me in, if you let me see His Holiness, I will make wherever it is. So I went to Dharamsala, and then that's where His Holiness, when I offered himself, saying that I have your word in 1978. So now I've finished my studies. I offer my body, mind, speech. I surrender before you. Now guide me my life. What do I do? And His Holiness immediately said, why don't you go to teach in West? He said, people are hungry for Dharma. And Buddhism really helps in the lives of people. And he said, we have so many great teachers, but not everybody speaks a foreign language. But then my thought in 1978 was, I want to go to meditate. Practice in solitary meditation. Then His Holiness said, why don't you go to teach in the West? So I had no word. I just bowed down. And His Holiness looked at me. And then, but what is in your mind? I said, I still want to do a little meditation. I want to feel and experience myself before I talk to people. I said, I have spent 18 years in my studies. I want to feel and experience myself before I talk to people. Then His Holiness was so pleased. He put down his robe like this, kind of relaxed. All right, that's wonderful. Then he started talking about meditation, and so he gave me the profound advices. Where you begin, how you do, and then he said, okay, whenever you have a doubt, a question, just come direct to me. So, yeah, those are, I always say those are the moments of the life. So, yeah, those are my, there are so many things, but yeah.
So did you take him up on his offer of coming down and to talk to him when he had questions about your practice? Good. I mean, you went to the mountains to practice.
Yes.
Could you tell us a little bit about that and when you would see His Holiness during that period?
Yeah, of course, His Holiness was just, as I said, His Bodhisattva. He was so kind, but I also know how busy he is. How busy he is. So I do not really have so much courage to disturb him all the time. But I have been very fortunate in my life that I when I count back, I had 13 private audience with His Holiness and for different reasons. And oftentimes I had opportunity to bring up my questions, including spiritual questions. But not necessarily those days were in the time of the meditation.
I think a lot of people are interested also in your serving in the parliament. How was it that you came to be elected to the Tibetan parliament?
That's, again, interesting thing. Although His Holiness Dalai Lama declared Tibetan democracy right in 1960, September 2nd, 1960, and we kind of we started a symbolic parliament from then, but we slow by slow we evolved from there. In 1991, we had first publicly elected members, like quite like any democratic system. And then when it came to 2001, I have no idea. I have never dreamt that I will be ever in politics. I was one of those who mouth all the time with the politicians. But in 2001 election, somehow people voted me into. I had no idea. One night, around 2 in midnight, I received a phone call from Switzerland, my friend, from somebody from Switzerland, and said, "Congratulations." And I said, "Congratulations for what?" And then he said, "You are not aware? You are on the top of the votes. You were elected into parliament." I said, "I had no idea." So tomorrow morning I go buy a newspaper and I found I'm on top. So this tells how genuine our democratic system by then. Now I can tell. Now I can see, like last time I see people are campaigning for themselves, people are putting out their posters like anybody else. But those days we never had, and we will never know. Our election system has two elections. What we say is primary election and final election. The primary election occurs like every Tibetan in exile. Of course, we have no reach back in our Tibet, our country, but in exile community, every Tibetan above the age of 18 has a right to choose one representative that you can trust, that to represent yourself. And then election commission pick toppers. It's like each region we have 10 members, so you actually choose 20 toppers as a candidate. Then election commission declares these 20 members, 20 toppers declared as a candidate for the next parliamentary election. And then from there, people have 3 months to decide what you really want to choose for your representative. So at the first election, the parliament election is actually, you just pick somebody that you trust the most to represent yourself. So I had no idea how the monastics chose me to represent themselves. So I wasn't there. Then challenge was, should I accept? I still reserve my right. I can say no, but then my thought, His Holiness, from the age of 16, he took the responsibility of Tibetan people. In all his life, he works hard, 24 hours. Now a challenge come before me if I step back. How can I face His Holiness? I can, that's the concern came into my head. So I said, okay, I'll take this. So I accepted the mandate of people, and so this is how I got elected on the top votes the first time. Then, I'm not a political person. It's always challenge. It's a human society. You see things, you hear things that you can't let go. Then you speak, you make people angry. So I thought, enough. 5 years is enough. It's not for me. But I know that His Holiness appreciates me. Because in my heart, I know that His Holiness appreciates that. So, October 28th, 2005, I have my friends, delegations from Middle East that I work with. And we had an audience with His Holiness about an hour or so. And then after the audience, I took opportunity, I hold His Holiness' hand. I said, Your Holiness, I've done my best for the last 5 years. Now may I? And His Holiness said, You're still young. Why don't you continue? People have faith in you. People trust in you. Why don't you continue? So, of course, I served another 5 years. Very challenging. But then 2011, as 2010 ending, 11 coming, I thought, no more. I spent 10